Hello everyone, this is Mumbo here, welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look at 10 redstone circuits that you should remember. Now this is all stuff that I've featured in my redstone builds before, and I'm sure at least some of you are going to be familiar with most of it. However, I thought I would summarise it all in one small little bite-sized video so you know exactly where to go when you get stuck. So let's begin. First things first, we've got the monostable circuit, or as some of you like to call it, the pulse limiter. Now this pretty much does what it says on the tin. It takes the input pulse and it shortens it right down. So as you can see, when we hit this button right here, we get ourselves a 1 tick output, and that is because this redstone dust powers this block, which powers the repeater, but then the block is moved out of the way, meaning that we get ourselves a shortened pulse. Now the way that you make this one is really quite simple. We have a sticky piston facing upwards with a block on top. All you need to do is run redstone into that block and take a repeater output. Simple as that. Moving on, we have got ourselves the T flip-flop. Now I recently did a video that explained these in a lot more detail, but essentially all you need to know about these is they take a pulse and they turn it into a constant output. So as you can see over here, we've got ourselves a button. When we hit that button, we get ourselves off, and when we hit it again, we get ourselves on. Now half of this circuit should look fairly familiar because this is the monostable circuit that we featured in the beginning. All you have to do is run the output from that with a 1 tick repeater into a sticky piston, and then you have to power that block in some way, and there we go, you've got yourself a T flip-flop. In front of us, we've got the redstone clock. Now these come in all different shapes and sizes and all different speeds, but essentially what they do is they loop redstone signal. So over here we have got ourselves a very obvious one. We have a pulse that just travels round and round in a circle, separated by these repeaters. Now this is a relatively slow redstone clock. This one over here is slightly faster, and then this one to the left you can see is very, very fast indeed. Now all of these are extremely useful, and I use them very often in all of my redstone circuits. If you want to change how fast your clock loops, all you have to do is change up all of the repeater timings. So this one over here uses 12 ticks of delay in total, this one uses 8 ticks, and this one over to the left uses just 2 ticks of delay. Now these really small clocks are very difficult to activate, so I thought I'd show you this cool little trick that I often use to get them up and running. All you have to do is place a redstone block and then a redstone torch on top. That will fire a 1 tick pulse into the circuit and it will get it going. Staying on the theme of redstone clocks, we've got ourselves the Burnout Clock. Now this doesn't use repeaters in a loop to get it working, instead it uses a different game mechanic. What we've got here is a block with redstone dust on the top, and surrounding that block we've got redstone torches, all with blocks on top. Now what happens is the redstone torch powers the block, which powers the redstone dust, which then turns off the redstone torch, which obviously turns off the redstone dust, which then turns on the redstone torch, which powers the block, which powers the redstone dust, and you get the idea. It's an infinite loop, and it means we get ourselves a very fast redstone clock indeed that is extremely easy to build and can also easily be toggled using this lever right here. It's good stuff. Now we are going to take a look at this really cool comparator-based pulse extender. So what we have here is 2 comparators facing in opposite directions running into redstone dust. Now if you were looking at this from an outside perspective, you would probably think that is going to create a redstone clock, but as you can see right here, instead of doing that, it actually extends out the pulse, and that is because comparators work slightly differently to repeaters. Instead of cycling the pulse around, what the redstone actually does is it gradually goes down in signal strength, meaning that we actually get an elongated pulse, as you can see right here, and it's very easily adjusted. For example, that one that we just showcased in the beginning extended the pulse just a little bit, but what if we wanted to do something a little bit more? All you have to do is add a few comparators and run one side into a block with redstone dust next to it, and as you can see we get ourselves a ridiculously long pulse that takes a very, very long time to turn off, and there we go. It's brilliant. This build here is known as the hopper timer. It was originally designed by Etho, and what it does is essentially act like a redstone clock, but it gives you a much longer amount of time between each one of the pulses. Now down at the bottom here we have got 2 hoppers, they run into one another and they have got items inside them. We have got this redstone block up at the top. What happens is all of the items flow from one hopper into the other, and when all of the items have travelled from that hopper into the other one, the redstone block switches places, meaning that all of the items flow from that hopper into the other one. I'll put a link to Etho's video down in the description because he explains it much better than me, but how about we take a look at how to build it. So you want to get things started with a 6x1 area. The first thing we're going to be doing is you want to chuck down both of your hoppers, you want to run those into one another, then you want to go out the side of the hoppers, place comparators like this, running into a block on either side, redstone dust on top of both of those, and then a sticky piston facing inwards on both sides with a redstone block on its face. Now, that is pretty much all of the redstone done. All we have to do now is chuck all of the items into the hopper. Obviously, the number of items you put in affects how long between each one of the pulses. So if you want to chuck a large number of items in, that means there's going to be a lot of time in between each of the pulses. If you don't put many items in, then it's going to be a pretty short time. Now, one thing that I do just want to say is that your output is going to be this redstone block. So if you want to place a block here and run a repeater out the side of that one, that is going to do all of it. So there we go. Pretty much anyone who has built a fully automatic farm before will recognize one of these. It is known as the block update detector, and it does what it says on the tin. It detects block updates. So if you place a block next to this piston, as you can see, the redstone lamp turns off and on again, and that is classed as a redstone output, and that is because this piston is detecting that block update. Now all we've got out the back is a few bits of redstone, and I'll quickly show you how to build it. So you want to start things off with a 3x3 area. First thing you want to do is place a sticky piston facing across with a redstone block on its face, and this block here is going to be where it is detecting the updates from. So next up, you want to place a block out like this, a repeater set to 2 ticks running into a block with a redstone torch on the side, a block on top of that, a block on the side of that redstone torch, and then a block on top of this redstone block. Place redstone dust in the middle, and there we go. You've got yourself a bud. Now one thing that I do just want to say is that this is not the only bud design out there. There are literally hundreds of them, and I'll try and do my best to include some links to some of those down in the description, so you might need some of them. Moving on to one of the more simple circuits of today's video, this is known as the smart piston, and what it will do is detect any blocks that are on its face and move them out of the way. So if we place a block here, it is immediately moved off and pushed along the line, and as you can see, they all bunch up. Now this is very useful for things like stone generators and tree farms and all that sort of thing, and as you can see, most importantly, it is extremely easy to build. All you need to do is place a block under the piston, a redstone torch on top, a block here with redstone dust on top, and then a block next to the piston that is going to be powering it, and we get ourselves a smart piston. These 3 builds that you see in front of you are the 3 simple logic gates: AND, NOT, and OR. Now I recently did a video explaining all of these in a lot more detail, and of course I'll put a link to that down in the description, but I thought I would briefly summarize them in today's video. So first off, we have got ourselves the AND gate. Now simply put, this will give an output if all of the inputs are on. So input 1 and input 2 are on, which means we have got ourselves an output. If we actually turn off one of these, then as you can see, the output turns off. The NOT gate is considerably easier to understand. Our input is currently off, which means our output is on. If we turn our input on, then our output will turn off, and that is because the NOT gate is just a fancy word for an inverter in Minecraft. Now if you head over to the right here, we have got ourselves the OR gate, and that essentially means that if any of the inputs are on, then our output is going to be on. Or for example, if input 1 or input 2 are on, then output is going to be on. So if you turn one of these on, this turns on. If we turn this one on, then that turns on at the back. And once again, if you do want more detail for this, the link to that video can be found in the description. And finally, this is one of the most basic double piston extender circuits that you can find in Minecraft. As you can see, it uses a very simple timing circuit with 2 ticks going to the back piston, 4 ticks going to the middle piston, and then no ticks going to the first. And as you can see, we get the full extension and also the full retraction. Now, as I've said multiple times in this video, some of these basic circuits, for example this double piston extender, can be done in many different ways, and if you do want other orientations for this one, then of course links to that will be down in the description. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I've got time for today. I hope that you found this video somewhat useful, and you will be able to use all of these newfound redstone circuits in all of your own redstone builds. But anyway, ladies and gents, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later.